to episode 119 of your CySA Plus Prepcast. Today, we explore a frequently underestimated but critically important aspect of vulnerability management, understanding the inhibitors to remediation. In cybersecurity, identifying a vulnerability is only the first step. The ability to act on that information quickly and effectively is what determines an organization's resilience. However, many organizations face significant obstacles that delay or block remediation. These inhibitors span organizational policy, governance structure, vendor contracts, operational constraints, and technical limitations. Understanding and managing these inhibitors is essential to strengthening security posture and reducing exposure. In this episode, we will examine the most common categories of remediation barriers and offer insight into how cybersecurity professionals can anticipate, communicate, and address these challenges. One common inhibitor to remediation is rooted in the terms outlined in memorandums of understanding between business units or external partners. These agreements often define strict boundaries around responsibility, authority, or scope of system access. When such agreements fail to include or prioritize security measures, remediation can be delayed. A team may detect a vulnerability but lack the contractual authority to apply fixes to affected systems. Addressing these inhibitors requires collaboration between cybersecurity teams and legal or administrative staff to revise agreements and explicitly define vulnerability management protocols. Service-level agreements with third-party vendors introduce another layer of complexity. These agreements typically outline the vendor's expected response time and scope of services, but they may not accommodate rapid vulnerability remediation. Delays can occur when vendors require internal approvals, offer limited availability for patch releases, or lack dedicated support channels. Furthermore, some contracts do not require the vendor to remediate vulnerabilities within acceptable timeframes for security teams. Cybersecurity professionals must work with procurement and vendor management teams to update SLAs and include specific remediation commitments as part of contract negotiations. Organizational governance structures themselves can become inhibitors. In large or decentralized organizations, remediation may require multiple levels of approval across various departments. Layers of bureaucracy, unclear reporting lines, and fragmented responsibilities delay action. For example, a remediation request might need sign-off from IT operations, legal, and compliance, each with its own process. These delays can be especially problematic when urgent vulnerabilities require same-day response. Streamlining approval chains and defining clear escalation paths are necessary steps to mitigate governance inhibitors. Business process interruptions also hinder remediation efforts. Remediation may require temporary downtime, service restarts, or system reboots, which directly impact productivity. As a result, stakeholders may push back or delay remediation until business activity slows. In some cases, security fixes are postponed indefinitely to preserve system uptime. While maintaining operational continuity is essential, the longer vulnerabilities go unaddressed, the higher the risk. Security teams must collaborate with business leaders to schedule remediation windows and communicate the cost-benefit trade-offs of inaction. Fear of system functionality degradation is another common obstacle. Applying security patches can introduce new bugs, break integrations, or affect system performance. This fear often leads stakeholders to avoid updates unless absolutely necessary. This risk aversion is especially prevalent in environments with custom applications or minimal system documentation. It is the responsibility of the cybersecurity team to mitigate this concern by providing pre-deployment testing environments, validating patches in controlled scenarios, and documenting rollback procedures to minimize fear and increase confidence. Legacy systems pose some of the most difficult challenges in remediation. These systems may lack vendor support, cannot accommodate modern security patches, or are built on outdated platforms incompatible with contemporary security tools. Additionally, some organizations are reluctant to replace legacy systems due to cost or operational dependency. Cybersecurity professionals must identify which legacy assets present the greatest risks and work with leadership to develop long-term upgrade strategies while applying interim mitigations such as isolation, strict access controls, or intrusion detection sensors. Proprietary or closed-source systems also act as significant inhibitors. These systems often require vendor involvement for any changes, including security updates. If the vendor is unresponsive, or if the licensing model restricts modifications, remediation becomes dependent on external parties. This can slow the process to a crawl. To address this issue, organizations must maintain detailed vendor communication records, escalate unresolved requests, and prioritize vendor cooperation during product evaluation and procurement. Budgetary constraints frequently delay or prevent remediation altogether. Cybersecurity teams may identify the need for new tools, personnel, or replacement systems only to be denied funding due to other business priorities. Limited resources may also mean that only a fraction of vulnerabilities can be addressed within a given cycle. Advocating for adequate budget allocation requires framing cybersecurity in terms of risk management, loss prevention, and regulatory compliance. Reports highlighting cost avoidance through proactive remediation are often more persuasive than purely technical arguments. Competing business priorities represent another source of resistance. Security tasks may be deprioritized in favor of product releases, marketing initiatives, or other high-visibility goals. In such environments, remediation becomes a secondary concern, addressed only when breaches occur. Cybersecurity leaders must align vulnerability management activities with strategic business goals and integrate remediation milestones into broader project timelines. This reinforces the idea that security supports, not competes with, business objectives. Lastly, regulatory compliance requirements can sometimes conflict with remediation timelines. Organizations may be bound by data retention policies, audit rules, or system validation procedures that restrict rapid changes. For instance, modifying systems during an active audit or without pre-approval from regulatory bodies could lead to compliance violations. Security teams must navigate these constraints carefully, often requiring coordination with legal and compliance teams to ensure remediation does not inadvertently breach regulatory expectations. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Lack of clear technical documentation is a frequent inhibitor to remediation. Without detailed records of system configurations, software dependencies, and asset ownership, security teams may struggle to identify the exact location or scope of a vulnerability. In complex environments, undocumented systems or orphaned applications introduce blind spots that delay or misdirect remediation efforts. To overcome this, organizations must prioritize asset inventory accuracy, maintain detailed configuration management databases, and enforce system documentation as a standard practice across all departments. Another technical limitation involves inadequate testing environments. Without a safe and representative environment to evaluate patches or configuration changes, teams may hesitate to proceed with remediation. This is particularly true in production environments where changes could impact revenue-generating systems. If testing platforms are unavailable, incomplete, or not synchronized with live systems, it becomes risky to apply updates. Building robust testing infrastructure, allocating time for simulation, and documenting expected behaviors are key strategies for reducing uncertainty and supporting timely remediation. Maintenance windows are often too restrictive to support rapid patch deployment. Critical updates may be delayed for days or weeks due to limited scheduling options, conflicts with peak operational periods, or dependency on cross-functional team availability. In global organizations with 24-hour uptime requirements, maintenance windows may be even more limited. To address this inhibitor, security teams must work with business units to establish flexible patching windows, assess the feasibility of rolling updates, and develop procedures for emergency maintenance when high-risk vulnerabilities are discovered. Skill gaps within the internal team also contribute to delays. When organizations lack in-house expertise to analyze vulnerabilities, interpret remediation guidance, or execute complex patches, timelines are extended. This issue is especially common in environments with custom-built systems, rare technologies, or new security tools that are not yet fully understood. Upskilling staff, maintaining vendor relationships, and leveraging third-party consultants are necessary steps to ensure that lack of knowledge does not become a long-term vulnerability in itself. Modern IT environments are often distributed across multiple platforms and geographic regions, including hybrid on-premises infrastructure, multi-crewed environments, and remote endpoints. This complexity can make consistent remediation difficult. Each platform may have its own patching process, update schedule, and access controls. Coordinating efforts across such environments increases the likelihood of missed systems or inconsistent patch deployment. Standardizing patch workflows, using centralized management tools, and integrating automation help ensure that coverage is uniform across the entire ecosystem. Inaccurate scanner outputs or excessive false positives can introduce doubt and inaction. When vulnerability reports frequently contain irrelevant findings or exaggerate risk, trust in the data erodes. This skepticism leads stakeholders to question whether remediation is truly necessary. To combat this issue, analysts must validate scan results before distribution, tune scanning profiles to reduce noise, and ensure that risk assessments are based on context, not just raw scanner output. Building confidence in reporting improves responsiveness and reinforces prioritization. Remediation fatigue is another emerging issue. When new patches are released frequently and new vulnerabilities are discovered daily, security teams may struggle to keep up. This constant demand creates mental and operational strain, especially when priorities shift rapidly or when teams are asked to support remediation alongside other responsibilities. Fatigue leads to missed deadlines, incomplete follow-through, and burnout. Addressing this issue involves capacity planning, process automation, and ensuring adequate staffing levels for remediation-specific functions. Resistance to change, though subtle, is a powerful inhibitor. Some teams may oppose remediation efforts that alter system behavior, change workflows, or introduce unfamiliar tools. This resistance often stems from fear of disruption, lack of understanding, or attachment to legacy practices. Organizational culture plays a major role in remediation success. Security teams must invest in change management strategies, communicate the rationale behind updates, and demonstrate the benefits of proactive remediation to gain broader support and buy-in. Breakdowns in communication between security and business stakeholders also delay action. When risks are not explained clearly, when language is overly technical, or when remediation requests seem disconnected from business priorities, stakeholders are less likely to approve or participate in mitigation efforts. Communication should be framed in business terms, emphasizing risk to operations, financial exposure, and customer trust. Presenting remediation as a business enabler helps bridge the gap and accelerates decision-making. Finally, unclear roles and responsibilities lead to confusion and missed opportunities for action. When no single person or team owns the remediation process, tasks are delayed or duplicated and accountability suffers. This often occurs in organizations with decentralized IT management or without a formal vulnerability management program. Defining roles for vulnerability identification, prioritization, remediation, verification, and reporting is essential. Documenting responsibilities and integrating them into action plans ensures that everyone involved understands their part in the process and remains accountable for timely execution. To summarize, Episode 1019, inhibitors to remediation come in many forms, from technical complexity and documentation gaps to organizational culture and contractual restrictions. Cybersecurity professionals must do more than identify vulnerabilities. They must also anticipate and navigate the obstacles that stand in the way of timely mitigation. By understanding these inhibitors, building collaboration across departments, and communicating risk in meaningful terms, analysts can reduce delay, improve responsiveness, and support the organization's overall security posture. Mastery of these skills not only prepares you for the CySA Plus exam, it also equips you to lead effective remediation efforts in the real world. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.